My name is Dr. Misha Mosley, founder and director of the Black Teacher Project, and you're listening to EdUp Accelerated Excellence.
Leaders, entrepreneurs, and change agents looking for the opportunity to network and exchange ideas with other trailblazers and to further your brand. The 2.0 conference is for you. Experts from the fields of education, health, internet, marketing, and CXO are welcome to take part in the 2025 conference in Las Vegas, March 4th through 6th. Reserve your space today and receive a 10% discount courtesy of EdUp Accelerated Excellence with the code EdUpXE10OFF. That's EdUpXE10OFF. Learn more and register online at www.the2conf.com. That's the2conf.com with the code EdUpXE10OFF.
Welcome back to another amazing episode of EdUp Accelerated Excellence, the podcast for the advancement of educational effectiveness and equity. And we like to address issues of across both traditional and non-traditional learning experiences and spaces. I have two guests today. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and we will explore the wonderful world of language learning. So Cheryl and Adil, will each of you introduce yourselves to the EdUp Accelerated Excellence community?
Yes, thanks, Jacob. My name is Cheryl Delk-Le, and I am the Executive Director for English USA, which is the professional association of intensive and pathway and ESL support courses in the United States, and I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia.
Welcome, Cheryl.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adil Bentahar, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Delaware's English Language Institute and School of Education. I like to see myself as a classroom teacher who teaches in higher education, and also a researcher within the language teaching and learning sphere.
Welcome, both of you. So I think it's important to have the community understand your origins around this work. So what first drew you to language, particularly second language learning, teaching, advocacy?
Yes, I'm assuming that I don't know if you want to take turns to tell it. So I have, it's scary to think, but over 30 years now in international education, in language learning. What drew me was being a language learner myself, which is not unusual in this field. I pursued studies and study abroad for French language and culture. So I did the very traditional, or in the past traditional years, study abroad while in college. And then although I was pursuing my studies in French, that's when I learned that I so much enjoyed language learning and language learners. And after that, even though I pursued some further graduate work in French, I essentially moved over to TESOL, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages.
For me, so I grew up in Casablanca, Morocco, and that's where I did my my undergrad, and I went to public school, K through 12. And in my high school time, I realized, so English at the time, English was introduced at the 10th grade. So as a 10th grader, that's when I learned English. I learned it as a foreign language. And unlike French, which I had learned for a long time since elementary school, and for other political reasons here in Morocco, French is the language of the colonizer for us Moroccans. English doesn't carry that colonial weight, and that's also inculcated in me an appreciation for this language, especially that I had the chance to learn it while a teenager, and it seems I did well in high school. And with that, I left high school with a dream of hoping a dream would come true, which is to become a teacher of English in high school, and that's exactly what happened. And after that, after teaching in Morocco, I went to the US, and I want to follow in the same direction. And with that background of EFL teaching experience, I wanted to continue within English language teaching and TESOL, and that's the path I took in my master's and PhD journeys.
So, Cheryl, in your role, do you primarily work with higher education or across all grade bands in terms of language learning and language access to high quality language education?
Yeah, so our constituents for English USA, our members, our programs, and we have about 220 English language programs. And to answer your question, our members are post-secondary English language programs, and the majority of our members, 75%, are at colleges, universities, and a growing constituency are community colleges. So within those programs, our members may also provide, we refer to them as junior programs, and those are 13 to 17-year-olds who come to study short-term in the U.S., but the primary programming for our members is post-secondary. The English language ELT, English language teaching industry globally, we look at both juniors and adults, but the focus in the U.S. for this association is post-secondary, for now at least.
I like that for now. It's very interesting when I hear from both of you and your backgrounds around language learning in general. Cheryl, you learning French. Adil, Adil, can you clarify? Is
Arabic? Yeah, I speak Arabic, and I also learned French, so I speak French as well.
So you would define as your native tongue which language?
Darija, which is Moroccan Arabic, which is basically Arabic with French and Spanish words in it, and these are the languages of the two countries that colonized Morocco, France and Spain. So you can't help it. I mean, it's Arabic, but with it so much vocabulary from both languages, which is good. I mean, it makes it unique as well.
So you're at Delaware, University of Delaware.
University of Delaware. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a bit about your role there and what type of programs are offered for students who are learning English?
So my department is the English Language Institute, and it's an intensive English program like the one that Cheryl was mentioning.
So Cheryl, you've had leadership roles serving or supporting multiple organizations, English USA, UCIEP, and the Commission on English Language Program Accreditation. What have you learned from those perspectives that would shape high quality language instruction?
Yeah, this was one of my favorite questions, actually. So I was involved in English USA as a board member prior to taking on this role later on about 10 years ago. So getting involved, which is what I highly recommend, for those pursuing leadership positions, you have to get involved in these professional associations. So English USA taught me, at the time it was called the American Association of Intensive English Programs, but as its president and also promotion and outreach, it gives you the bigger picture of our challenges and also successes that we have as in promoting the United States as a premier destination of study. Now, going back to my office where I used to work at Georgia State University, I would get a lot of energy, from being in a leadership position and learning from peers. So in that case, board members and those that were attending conferences. UCIP is we call UCEEP our sister association. Most of the members of UCEEP are also members of English USA, but UCEEP focuses on university and college programs, which have their own successes and challenges. English USA has that type of member, but also private. So again, big picture, right? University college, community college, and also private and independent providers. getting ideas for what works, what hasn't worked, what works in large urban areas, what works in smaller rural traditional college towns, was very impactful for me still as a practitioner, as an administrator, but also it helped me move into this role. CEA, which is the Commission on English Language Program Accreditation you mentioned, is an accrediting body. That service on the commission, very different. You are making high stakes decisions, reading through reviews and documents and learning so much. I mean, so the level of detail for those reports, all of which is, confidential and such, but your brain doesn't, your brain still absorbs all that and taught me a lot about best practices, again, about the challenges in curriculum, developing curriculum, teaching, fixing the plane while flying, and how programs worked that out. So those 3 experiences, and also with NAFSA, I served on a committee with NAFSA. The big picture is key. It's not for everybody. I completely understand faculty and staff, the designated school officials, DSO, they have a role. Students, front facing with the students, and that's where they need to put their time and energy. But the external leadership piece and getting involved, even as faculty and DSOs in those events, I think is key. A little bit of the big picture goes a long way in our field.
I can definitely see how having a big, in this case, I'm going to say a global picture around the profession really does help to shape how we think about programming on the ground. So Adil, you are at a university. You're at University of Delaware. Can you tell us a bit about the operations there and how specifically is English language instruction operationalized on your campus?
So at the University of Delaware, Delaware's English Language Institute, where I work, we have several fronts, several programs and offerings. I would start with the regular intensive English program. So when we say IEP in our field, we generally think about those courses that students may take for fun or just to improve their languages without necessarily linking it to some matriculation or starting a post-IEP program. With that, IEP courses were the norm for many years. And then came another program, which we call in Delaware, at the University of Delaware, academic transitions. Other programs or other IEPs call it the Bridge or Pathway program, which is basically another offering that is more appealing to these students. So imagine international students leaving their countries, coming to the US, dealing with all the cultural adjustments and everything, only to have at the end non-transferable credits, which is basically not as useful as they wish. Now, with this challenge came the idea of creating courses within colleges. This is not the case for all IEPs, but at the University of Delaware's English Language Institute, we have that advantage of offering College of Arts and Sciences courses within the ELI that students can learn at the ELI, but at the same time transfer to other units and departments or colleges within the university and even to other universities, which makes more sense to the students and to me as a non-native speaker of English who came to the US in the same way. So in addition to the pathway programs or academic transition programs, our IEP also offers special teacher education programs. So basically these are offerings for teachers from other countries who come here to build and to refine their language skills, English language skills. Specifically, they get to observe and to communicate with their peers, us, and they also teach in at times. They also get to see how English language teaching takes place in an ESL environment. And here I just want to draw the link between ESL and EFL. In Morocco, when you teach English, that's EFL, because the outside or the environment doesn't speak English, as opposed to in the US, it's ESL. So these foreign or overseas based teachers, when they come here, they also get to go to other middle schools, high schools, and see how English language teaching is implemented, especially with multilingual learners of English. And the last and fourth program I want to emphasize is the MA TESOL program. So many IAPs in the US, and the University of Delaware IAP is one, collaborate with School of Educations and other colleges to create masters in teaching English as a second language, the MA TESOL program. So basically, this is a program that addresses the needs not only of pre-service teachers, but also of in-service teachers who want to earn masters, but at the same time, build on their teaching, skills and abilities to better serve their students, especially MLEs, so to speak.
Experts from the fields of education, health, internet, marketing, and CXO are welcome to take part in the 2025 2.0 conference in Las Vegas, March 4th through 6th. Reserve your space today and receive a 10% discount courtesy of EdUp Accelerated Excellence with the code EdUpXE10OFF. That's EdUpXE10OFF. Learn more and register online at www.the2conf.com. That's the2conf.com with the code EdUpXE10OFF.
So what I'm understanding, there are different approaches to English language. ESL, EFL, TESOL, the nomenclature is a bit varied, but we know that they have unique approaches. So Adil, I really appreciate the fact that you have illuminated for us this idea of there's English language learning or English language learning for learning's sake for the academic environment in this case. But there's also this idea, or there's this world of educators who are learning how to actually teach and support students. So let's take those two fronts. For students who have academic pursuits and are learning English, what do you find to be the most difficult issue for them, and how might we address it? And then I want to follow up with the same for those who seek to teach English as a second language or English as a foreign language. What is the most prevalent issue that they face, and how might we address it?
I think the challenge, the key challenge that teachers and students might face in higher education while teaching/learning English is the mindset. Basically, it's the mindset of the mindset that the teachers themselves might have unintentionally, kind of implicit bias, and not feeling it, especially teachers or instructors or educators who have little experience teaching, learning languages overseas, which means the level of empathy isn't as high. And the other thing is the stakeholders that you work with. At the University of Delaware, for example, we want to make sure that what we do within our English language teaching and learning world within the university is something that other provosts, deans are aware of. In other words, we send them, for example, at UD's IEP, we send large number of students who matriculate, who choose to continue at the University of Delaware. So those students built the key foundations, academic and cultural, thanks to our IEP, and now they're continuing in the same town, the same state and everything. So we need to make sure that other collaborators understand who these students are. They also see it as an asset to the university in terms of improving and increasing internationalization efforts. They are helping other domestic students understand other students from other countries, challenging them, shaking the status quo in a little bit in a good way, so that everyone remembers that this is a world of diversity and acceptance and tolerance. So it's all beneficial. And on the other piece I would like to add is we also want to make sure that these students, our international students, feel a sense of belonging. We want them to feel that they belong to this university, to this state, to this town, and everyone around them is there to help them. Of course, they would have rights and responsibilities, but that feeling of belonging is going to boost their confidence and hence improve their academic performance on campus.
So, Cheryl, I see you're nodding your head.
I am. I mean, a couple points here. We started to talk about the academic pursuits of students in particular. I mean, that's where Adil's context is coming from. What I've been learning, again, the global perspective, certainly the national perspective, but also globally, is that academic pursuit for international students studying English first and then continuing degree-seeking students, we often refer. These days, the soft skills, career work, career English, English study and projects that will help students not only in their academic courses, but beyond. And for those, and we all know that the traditional 4-year degree is under, some attack these days, which is with the cost. The costs are sometimes prohibitive for students to come to the United States to study. So these shorter term type programs that may combine both academic with professional skills beyond that degree in robotics, which seems outdated now, right? Beyond that degree in AI, content generation, et cetera, is also the need for soft skills. I wanted to address that because workplace English and English for specific purposes, English for academic purposes, all of this has been around for 70 plus years, right? There's nothing new about it. What's new is that the students are changing. The students come over with a higher level of English. It might be a generational decision with both parents and the students about the amount of time that they have. Micro-credentialing, hot topic. I don't have a lot to say about it, except it's a hot topic among, within our field right now. So I wanted to address that academic pursuit side, because the universities are also learning that in addition to the academic pursuits, they also there's a desire for English for general purposes and English for professional purposes. The upskilling so that someone can come and study English, go back to their country and potentially get a raise, right, or a promotion. The other thing that I wanted to mention to follow up on what Adil just said, and I think this is what you were touching on, is the importance of the on-campus, and I will add in community. So on campus and within the community, visibility and advocacy, right? Like I've said, a lot of these English programs have been around for 50, 60, 70 years. Provosts change, presidents change, strategic plans get written, internationalization goals get set. But what I have been focusing on with our constituents is making sure that intensive English programs, English language programs, don't hide in the basements, on campus, but that they're up front, out there, center, so that they can serve the academic and language support needs of matriculated students, of students within the community. Delaware, Adil may speak to this, was a leader in the providing English for our refugee, a lot of the refugees that came to the U.S. So the on-campus within community visibility, we cannot take that for granted. With a new president, with a new dean, et cetera, that needs to be re-upped. The relationships need to be rebuilt, nurtured, et cetera.
And if I may add, Jacob, to Cheryl's points, part of that mindset that needs to be continuously changing, and it's on us also, IPs and on organizations such as UCEEP and English USA to help with these efforts is how other departments, other colleges, other stakeholders see IEPs. When it's easy when you don't know how something functions. It's easy to make a judgment, usually a negative judgment, and that kind of stereotyping also gets in the way in terms of funding, in terms of expectations, in terms of holding them accountable, why they should have been supported. I give you an example. When COVID hit, that was a disaster all over the world, and then as you see universities and colleges step in and support their departments, not all IEPs, which are when these IEPs are doing well financially and they are self-sustaining units, when they are doing very well, then they are expected to contribute to, financially and support other units within campus. But then when the disaster of COVID-19 lockdown and everything happened, then many programs were let go, just closing on their own without, if that was a policy campus-wide, that no support would be given to departments and units, then I would say these IEPs are just like other units / departments. Whatever happens affects everyone. But when you see that colleges would generously support units and departments and faculty, giving them financial support to retain the faculty and staff, which was not the case with IEPs, then that is an equity issue. Then there is double standard. And these are, I think this is kind of hypocrisy, because if you believe that you are all one as one university, then you have to show it when hard time happens. So there is an issue. I think things are changing. And the other thing about this kind of stereotyping is how IEPs and I'm still answering your question about the challenges that you may have. I think it's a mindset. When I said it's a mindset issue, it's not just classroom and teachers. It's beyond that. When stakeholders think that IEPs are not generally marginalized because they are non-degree granting units, we don't give masters and bachelors and associate degrees. And also there's an expectation that the faculty within these units don't have to publish. So that publishing, that requirement of publishing and masters being the terminal degree where you can teach in IEPs, that's according to TESOL. It's so the mother organization, if you like. So that expectation gets in the way because you don't see much scholarship, much research taking place by or published by faculty in IEPs. And because of that, it affects your visibility as units. So these kinds of, it's just the context. I think that mindset is changing a little bit because IEPs now are hiring PhD holders, and so much research is taking place by IEP professionals in the field and building that visibility, which for this wasn't as productive or high. So the mindset is changing. There's also a responsibility on IEPs to step in and shake the status quo a little bit by producing research that reflects the success stories, the challenges, the environment, building the knowledge that others need for them to better understand who you are as an IEP, who you are as faculty, that you are peers, that a faculty member with a PhD or not who publishes should be highly regarded as if like someone from another department from the same university. So it's on both.
So that's a very interesting analysis, Adil, because you're talking about this anti-marginalization on campus, because we hear some of these same stories around other professional areas and subgroups within the areas. I'll give you an example. I've heard of universities where schools or colleges of education feel like the stepchild, particularly because now there's a huge teacher shortage, for example. So when enrollment drops, you're less valuable, particularly to institutions that are enrollment driven for revenue. And we also hear that around faculty who may engage in what is called the clinical work, whereby people don't understand why are you in P12 schools for part of your instructional time. And if you're not researching or publishing around that work, it seems to have less value. So I think this is the idea. One, what we're hearing across multiple of our guests across episodes is the importance of empathy. But then two, advocacy. How do we advocate from within a marginalized sector? And largely that has to do with educating others. I would say, though, that is a huge burden, because if you have true empathy, we would seek understanding. As opposed to leaving the burden on the marginalized to have to advocate for themselves. So now, in that vein, when did you realize the importance or power of language learning, and particularly English? So, this country in the U.S., we have a history of Americanization. So we're going way back in the founding country. So as certain groups came to this country, they were required to acclimatize or Americanize themselves. And part of that was English only. So that has been one debate. We don't hear those debates around English only so much anymore. But in your lifetime, when did you realize that there is currency in English language learning, or language learning in general?
So I would like to give my context as a committee member and also a faculty member at the University of Delaware's MA TESOL program. So our work is primarily centered on pre-service and in-service teachers who also work with multilingual learners of English. These may be green card holders who are just arrived in the US. They could also be refugees. And Cheryl mentioned our experience at the ELI with the WISE program, the Afghan group here a couple of years ago. But I think what you mentioned as English being the only language that has to be emphasized is one of the modules or the topics that we discuss in a course I teach called Cultural Diversity in ESL Classrooms. In other words, one of the topics is funds of knowledge. And funds of knowledge is a concept that relates to everything the students, the multilingual learner of English, who goes to high school or middle school, that students, when he or she comes to school, they bring with them a different culture, a different language, different expectations, different habits of body language, of responsiveness. All this package is something that is important for these teachers to understand. Whether you're a pre-service teacher or an in-service teacher, it's important to understand who your students are. And that's exactly what we do at the MA TESOL program. We hope our students, our graduate students, would first understand the value of understanding your students, but also making sure that these students have a pleasant experience in their new environments. And if a student is using Spanish, for example, or Arabic, it doesn't mean that they are being disrespectful. Maybe their English is not high enough, is not at that proficiency level where they can speak confidently and communicate. And that's why some of the behaviors you would see is those students would resort to those students from the same language, not necessarily from the same culture. And because it's the kind of they support, it's a support mechanism. So when these teachers learn about funds of knowledge and how you can communicate and better serve your students so that they feel at home in your school, that's a requirement. And this also means that those teachers need to challenge their own perceptions and opinions about the other, being other cultural or other languages. So yes, it's not all about English only. It can be other. that used to be in a certain context, but it's not. I think it's not. It doesn't have the same support it used to have before, because now we talk about translanguaging, we talk about accepting other practices in K through 12, for example, and in K through 16, even in IEPs, in post-secondary English language programs, we want to be more accepting of cultures and differences and languages in an English teaching context.
This is interesting because you're really talking about, again, empathy, but then culturally relevant, culturally sustaining pedagogy and practices. Although we're at the same time seeing in this nation a backlash around some of those issues.
Yeah.
Can I add just a little bit from an association perspective on this topic?
Yes.
When you asked the question, Jacob, you said in your I think in your long career or your career, but I've been around for a bit. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things that I've noticed, not from the classroom level, but a little bit broader. Mm-hmm. We still have member programs, and I hope I don't offend anybody here, called, I'll just be very general, the American language program, the American language, etc. I am seeing fewer of those named programs. I think I think it goes into what's been, going on in the past 10 years or so, where, students don't, we don't want to Americanize the international student. Even international affairs, international student and international affairs units. I see more now global engagement center, global engagement, etc. So it's not focusing kind of on the othering piece. These students are others, come to our otherish department on campus to get help with your visa and such. But in those institutions, I'm speaking university and college, community college, those institutions that have those global engagement centers, or that, using Adil's term, the mindset, I think are, and then bringing, Jacob, your terms of sympathy and empathy, is kind of, encompassed in words like global, words like engagement versus the international. So I just wanted to add a little bit.
Well, thank you for that. I'm going to shift gears just a bit, because I want to talk about from a topic or something that was brought up a bit earlier in this conversation around really this idea of change. So one thing that we're seeing in education writ large is the infusion or focus on technology. So I know, Adil, you use some techniques or approaches to regarding the use of technology in instruction. And Cheryl, you see even in some of the accrediting bodies talk about or address the use of technology in sort of programming or program management, data management, or even at the instructional level. So what role has technology, or do you see technology taking place in English language learning and instruction?
So I would like to start with the pre-COVID time. So in intensive English programs, there wasn't so much emphasis on technology because online teaching / learning wasn't the norm. Intensive English program students, F1 visa students, academic visa, according to the US Homeland Security, have an expectation of taking at least 18 contact hours weekly. So with this face-to-face, with this large amount of time of learning and instruction face-to-face, the online component is not really the norm. This was before COVID. When COVID hit, what we noticed is that not many instructors in IEPs were used to integrating technology in the classroom. But then there was an inevitable need. Everyone had to learn. And with that, instead of just using technology to enter your grades on Canvas, there was a major shift to training and preparing those teachers for them to cope with the new challenges and opportunities of offering online courses that serve not only the students who are in the US, but also students who are stuck overseas. So that was a silver lining, if you like, when it comes to technology integration and learning in IEPs. As a classroom teacher, I like to focus more on technology with respect to reading, for example. I use the Perusal and Kami, and these are two social learning platforms that help students engage with the text, and that was especially with electronic texts that were replacing the physical text, especially in the wake of COVID. And assessment also has been affected in a good way, impacted positively by technology, because now students, you can always assign work asynchronously. And this is also something that I learned in the wake of COVID, that not everything has to take place in my classroom. It's good for me as a teacher because it reduces the weight on what I can do in the classroom. But more importantly, I think it promotes autonomous learning. These students, international students, they know, and that's why I tell my students, you're not here on tourist visas. You have a mission. You have to help grow as a language learner, get ready for the next step, the next goal, whether it's academic or professional, and that takes some work. And the onus here is on the students as well to learn on their own, especially in an English speaking context, which they don't have. Many of them don't have back home. And technology can help in this regard, by the way.
Cheryl, would you like to add to that?
Just add, I immediately following COVID, right? We had the January. I feel like I'll never forget when ChatGPT went wild, right? So just when we thought we were
we're all laughing. We're all laughing with you on that one. I think we can all remember this surge, this notion of what is it, first of all, and oh, look what you can do with it. And we had this idea that Chat GPT was going to solve many problems, but cause a lot of challenges for teachers around authenticating work, for example. But continue.
Yeah, and the cliches like, well, remember when the calculator came to be, things like that, which not a lot of people could relate to, right? Remembering when the calculator came around, but when Google Translate came to be, I mean, I was teaching at the time, but I think I really liked. This word will stick with me today, Jacob. The empathy, and I think sympathy. I think what happened at that time, from an association point of view with English USA, is, boom, that's when the community comes in, and we get out of our home, our home silos and our teaching silos, and we're able to share with each other, bring out, take out some of the fear that was bubbling up. I mean, when I left my previous position, I worked with folks from 24 years old to 60 years old. And, that, again, that pace of change that the older folks have been dealing with in our field, that just impacts your day-to-day lesson planning and everything else. So from professional association point of view, when things like that, it's not a thing, right? When a revolution takes over like that, it is the professional association, the community that really comes into play.
So for both of you, what inspires you the most or keeps you going in this profession?
I'll start, Adil. So I've been in this role for 10 years in the profession, let's say for over 30. And in my role, often we're talking about operations, Adil mentioned Department of Homeland Security and Department of State. I mean, on the big picture level, we need to make sure that English language programs are not marginalized within the whole policy and legislation, frankly, but, the big picture, which, when there are changes in administration, et cetera, what inspires me is when I bring it back to the student, right? And the student success. So while I may be, marching on the Hill in DC to my state reps on behalf nationally of the association, when I'm at events representing the whole field of English language teaching, I am inspired in my remarks and in how I contribute to the field by remembering the students. If you go back to the student, the policies, the recommendations, the operations, the offerings make sense.
For me, what inspires me to continue doing what I'm doing with respect to teaching, research, and service within the field of English language teaching and learning is the face-to-face interaction I have with my students, the aha moments you see in the classroom, and also the little change that I feel I'm contributing to by these endeavors. I'd like to mention that I am also a non-native speaker of English, and I say it proudly. I want my students to know that. That's the first thing I mention with my students, that I was not born in the US. And now you're looking at an associate professor at an American university. I know that gives them a lot of pride. And because of that, it inspires them. And it's like an indirect message that, hey, you are where you are. Your goal is there. Stay focused on it. You will get there. Hard work, staying focused, discipline, these are factors that will get you there, and you are in the right place. So the other thing that I want to mention about feeling inspired is also giving back to my community. And my community here is not just the IEP community in the US, but also the English language teacher community in Morocco, because this is also where I first learned English. That's where I developed some skills that paved the way for a successful career in the US. Teachers of English, the educators in the US. And I want to give an example of a TESOL collaboration that we launched last January. So TESOL keeps touting professional development opportunities like the one they have on the 6 principles of exemplary teaching. But it's hard for non-US based teachers of English to pay for the visa and the flights and all the hassle to go and attend 3 days or 2 days in the US. So what happened was we brought TESOL to Morocco, and I feel very proud of this initiative, because I could see how grateful the community of English language teachers in Morocco was, and I feel also a reason for making things happen. So that responsiveness from the students in the US, but also from the teachers in Morocco, keeps me going, and I'm very proud and grateful for these opportunities.
Oh, that's wonderful. I want to have you share with the EdUp Accelerated Excellence community how they might be able to engage with you and your organizations and give them insights on what's coming next from your different shops.
So we are a professional association, and so getting involved means, if you're part of an English language program, either private, independent, or at an institution, that's an easy way to get involved as far as membership is concerned. But as a professional, we're a trade association, a 501c6. So we serve the industry, and we also serve friends of the industry, right? So we have folks that may not be teaching in a program to become a traditional type member, but we have activity and engagement levels for those that might be interested in post-secondary English language programs. What's coming up? We have a conference at the end of January. We have kept that conference virtual since the pandemic. Listening to the attendees. Adil mentioned, this is not getting visas and going overseas, but even these conferences within the U.S. are extremely expensive, as we know. We know from personal experience of a conference that we deliver in Alexandria in each fall, which we'll be doing again. The costs of those to put on those events has just increased. They've increased astronomically. But we offer the virtual events, and then Adil mentioned TESOL, and we're very close collaborators. English USA with TESOL, NAFSA, UCEEP has been mentioned, but AIEA, AIRC, the Alliance for International Exchange, and these are the broader international education associations. But with TESOL, we've been members forever. I've been member for, I don't even want to mention my first TESOL year. But with that conference, we are collaborating and offering a pre-conference workshop, which is in Long Beach, acknowledging that English USA needs to move around the U.S. as well, right? And it's a national association. It's very common for conferences to move around, but when your only conference in person, our stakeholders in the DC area, our accrediting bodies and government agencies, and then our virtual conference, this new connection with TESOL and collaborating on both expenses and revenue for the event is going to help. And then we have recruitment events. I know that is not really the focus of this podcast, but a lot of our administrators, Adil works with several that recruit students that go on site, right? And we'll be going to Merida, Mexico in April to meet with students, 30 programs from the U.S. And then a very unusual activity that we're excited about is we're collaborating with Languages Canada, essentially our competitor, right? But we're collaborating with Canada to encourage students to come to North America. And both countries have their challenges. Canada in particular is facing quite a few challenges with international students these days. And we may face our own with the new administration. But a lot of neat activities that are in both the recruitment area and then with TESOL, and then we have ongoing professional development. We just had a session yesterday on adult-friendly materials for beginner learners, which you would think in all these years of the field that we'd have enough materials, but there's always need for more. So we do a lot with curriculum development and assessment with our professional development offerings.
So Cheryl, if you don't mind, that is EnglishUSA.org, correct?
Yes.
EnglishUSA.org. You can connect with Cheryl and her colleagues there. As she mentioned, there is an upcoming conference and a few partnerships with other organizations such as TESOL, which we mentioned TESOL earlier, and Adil has mentioned TESOL, but TESOL is also sort of a process of programming, but an organization as well.
Yes, yeah. And we should both refer to this as the TESOL International Association. That was TESOL International.
International. That's right. Because the TESOLs. For me, I'd like to touch upon three things. First one is what we do at the University of Delaware with respect to offering English language teaching and learning. And this is through the English Language Institute and also through the MA TESOL program. So, of which the ELI is a major part. So this is programming for English language learning, but also a programming that addresses the needs of in-service teachers many of whom are American teachers, domestic teachers, etc. The other piece is about the special teacher education programs. So basically through State Department's funds or USAID or other governmental or non-governmental funds, sometimes you have those teacher professional developments initiatives. And I am not in the US now. In the US, and and I think that's a great program because the experience of bringing, for example, 25 teachers from Saudi Arabia or from other countries to spend a few weeks in the US is win-win, because not only do these teachers learn best practices in higher education and K-12 from English language professionals and experts, but these IEP professionals also, for example, get to learn other practices from other countries, and it's all for the for the good of everyone involved. The other piece I'd like to mention, and this is the first mention of it, is TESOL International Association has a number of professional learning networks, which is basically communities that teachers, depending on your interest. For example, I like to see myself as someone interested in reading, so I like to be associated with the reading, others with teacher development or teacher education. So these professional learning networks have a new PLN, which is Extensive Reading Network, and I'm very proud to be the co-leader of this program. It was an idea that we had a year ago. We wanted TESOL to spend more time on extensive reading, and thanks to Doreen Ewart from the University of San Francisco, we were able to help create this, and just 2 days ago it was officially launched on the TESOL portal, and we're looking forward to promoting more extensive reading in language teaching and learning contexts, K through 12 or K through 16. This is far from IEP, but as IEP is the starting point, where I'm also conducting some research on extensive reading in US university and college IEPs, and that's part of my sabbatical, which I'm spending this fall. So I'm looking forward to sharing more about extensive reading in US-based IEPs.
So Adil, I want to take you up on this idea around intensive reading, particularly for second language or foreign language instruction. Because here in the States, of course, we see there's a big movement, a focus on the science of reading for P12 schools. So I think we may have room to explore what that looks like for English language learners as well. I want to thank both of you for this opportunity to learn with and from you here at EdUp Accelerated Excellence.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for the opportunity. And Adil, I feel privileged to be with an established and hardworking faculty member.
Cheryl, thank you. It's mutual. It's a great pleasure to be with you here. And Jacob, thank you so much for making it happen.
A special thanks to our research assistant for this episode, Emily Bloom, graduate student researcher at Fordham University, studying in the Mental Health Counseling program. And we want to hear from you. If you have feedback on this or other episodes, contact us online at edupxe.com, that's edupxe.com.
Thank you for engaging with the EdUp Accelerated Excellence community. You can find this episode and others on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Music. And if you like this episode, please don't forget to follow us and share within your network.